Hey, I'm Reggie Ponder, the Real Critic, and this is the Real Critic Roundtable, where African American critics come to discuss, debate, and have a little fun. That's
Yeah,
for real.
we want a lot of people to watch, and I can't recall. It's been a while since there's been a movie release where so many people hit me so many different ways to find out if I've seen it, to find out about it, what's going on with it. I mean, it's been a long time since people have come at me at all different directions about a film, and Coming to America is it. So
But
it's fun when real people care about movies.
well,
So
well,
let's get in it. Let's
but
get
you
in
bring.
this
I'm
one.
about to say you bringing it to it.
Yeah,
Let's
let's
talk
get in
about it.
this one.
Tell us what this one is about. Now, before you do this, let me just tell you. Let me just tell you this, man. I was concerned. So
I was too.
I had two things working here for me. On the one hand, I'm concerned that you're going to take this iconic movie and you're going to try to do it again. But on the other hand, I'm thinking, man, they got everybody coming back. So talk to us, man. What are your thoughts on this one?
Well, yeah, this is one of those reviews where you have to set it up. I mean, it's one of the few times I think you're allowed to jump in from a personal perspective. And I will say, arguably, and let's just start here, arguably, the original Coming to America is one of the funniest movies ever made. You also cannot deny the fact that it has had a timeless quality that very few movies have ever achieved. And not just with a certain demographic slice. I mean, this one's had a universal appeal for a very long time. I also remember the very first time I saw this movie in the movie theaters. There's not a lot of movies I remember that. I remember the day, what the weather was like, who I went with. You know, there's very few movie experiences like that. So, yeah, when I first heard, because they've been trying to do this sequel actually for a really long time. I actually know a couple of screenwriters who actually wrote the sequel years ago that didn't get used. I mean, there have been several teams of writers that have been hired to create the Coming to America sequel. And I've always had that same dread and fear that you possess, that why are they doing that? With that said, it's done now. And you can watch it now on Amazon Prime. And I know a lot of people are. And man, it just reminded me of a failed greatest hits project. I
Really?
it
Go ahead.
just it just it's been 33 years, and they did get a lot of I think almost everyone who's still alive that was a part of the first film is a part of the second film, and I have no problem with that. The actual weakest part of the film was the addition of the new characters in the new cast. I just it felt like they really struggled to freshen it up. And I also thought that why do a sequel if you have to rely so heavily on using clips from the first movie in the new movie?
Okay.
It was like they were constantly reminding us this movie's a classic. This movie was funny. This is the movie you love. No, create something so I re-fall in love. You know,
Oh,
it,
oh,
it was
wow. Wow.
the movie felt like a former beauty queen going to get plastic surgery, but instead of enhancing her parts, they just use her old parts and put them in different places.
Wow.
That's what
Katya,
it felt like.
Katya, thoughts?
Um, it just felt dated, you know. I agree with Sean that everybody did come back except Madge Sinclair. Madge Sinclair died of cancer in 1995, so obviously she can't be there. Uh, the new people added nothing to it. It was like it's very forced, you know. I also felt like it was very Princess Diary already did this trope where you can't be, you know, you can't ascend to the throne if you're a girl. You know what I mean? We had that dialogue done, but having said that, that plot twist, even that plot twist being old, you would think this is where I'm going to get on Kenya a bit. You have a whole show where you center Black fatherhood, and you didn't bring anything of any of that into this film. You have no moments between Eddie Murphy and Jerome. I believe it's Jerome Fowler's his name. Between the two that make you say they're a father and son or bonding. Also, you have the first movie, which was all about Akeem not following the rules and creating his own voice. And in this film, you have him being very stereotypical, which again, what we loved about Akeem was that he was like, you know what, I want to rule on my own terms. I want to do things my own way. And then with this, we get this very stoic guy, you know. But having said that, to me, again, the highlight is Eddie Murphy. Eddie Murphy is interesting enough to watch, but unfortunately, not even his talents can save this film.
Wow, wow. So you guys, it's really interesting. Maybe because I came to it with such trepidation that I liked it better than I thought that I would like this film. I I I really understand where you're coming from, Sean, when you talk about using the old clips. But I actually thought that the new people actually did freshen it up a bit. I know the story is the same, but I thought they freshened it up a bit because I really didn't think that Eddie and Arsenio would be the two that could really uh, hold that up 33 years later, so that you gave it some freshness. So that worked for me. The thing about Katya that you talk about and is for me, the I agree with you about this whole thing about fatherhood, but I love this thing about the women empowerment is that where the women came and did what they did, right? Because you don't want to give that away, but I like this thing. So there were a lot of elements for me. They did three things for me in this that I ended up liking. I started off saying to myself, okay, you came into this really clunky. They came into it very clunky and awkward as to how they were going to make this thing work. But then I just said, stop it, Reggie. Stop trying to look at this as the other movie and just
You
suspend
can't.
belief.
Yeah, you have to do that.
Just stop it. Just stop it. And that's what I was doing. I was looking at it as the other movie. And I said, stop it. And I tried to watch it for its own merits. And it worked for me. I actually did laugh. And there's three things they did real quick. One is I think that they paid reverence to the original characters and then didn't take those characters too seriously. Two, I think that they didn't rely on Murphy and Hall to carry this movie all by themselves. And then three, I think that the messages, the inner how they interwove African American culture along with African culture, I thought that it worked today.
But
Maybe it felt dated, but that's how I came out on that.
but the biggest misstep in the entire movie is, okay, if you remember, this is a sequel. So if you remember how the first movie ended, they wasted a fantastic opportunity to address Lisa, played by Sherry Hadley's adjustment to living in Zamunda. She's criminally ignored in this movie. She only had one memorable scene, and she comes alive. I don't want to give anything away, but she comes alive in that one scene, but that's basically all she got. Remember, the original movie ends with them getting married. She left America to move. What was her adjustment like? How did, what were we really never addressed what was going on the previous 33 years? What's their relationship like? Why didn't we not focus more on Prince Akeem and Lisa's relationship and what has happened in the past 3 decades? She's wasted. She
Yeah.
got she got no screen time.
It wouldn't have bothered me as much. I mean, I can understand to a certain extent why she wasn't utilized. She's not that draw. Like her star power has dimmed a little bit, but you could have done it in a smart way where she could have been the bridge to helping this young man understand, because she too came from the outside. You didn't have to do a big trope, but you could have had a scene where they had a conversation about it. You know what I mean? But again, I agree with Sean. Like, I wanted to know more about life in Samunda. You know what I mean? Like, there, it's crazy. I feel like you got the woman from Ruth Carter to do the costumes, but you didn't learn that part about Black
What
Panther,
kind?
is to utilize and show us, you even put a line in there, Wakanda's fake, Zamunda is real, but we learned nothing about Zamunda. We learned nothing about what is, day to day. We didn't get to see him as a prince doing princely things, you know what I mean? And again, I fault the writers for that, you know what I mean? Because they didn't flush out these characters, they didn't develop the character. The women were very stereotypical, do you know what I mean? I wouldn't say, some people said anti-black. I don't think this is anti-black. I just think, again, it's stated. It's like they wanted it to be they didn't take it to 2020, or this was from the 2019. And again, as funny as Arsenio and Eddie are, and they have that chemistry, it goes when these other people are in and they are not on that same energy level. Do you know what I mean? So you can't, like, Eddie Murphy is out of this world and he thinks on the top of his head. And no disrespect to Leslie and Tracy, but they're not dancing with him in the same league. You know what I mean? So you
I buy that. So, Sean, I have to ask you before is this a watch it?
No, it's a 100. Come on, look. The movie's more nostalgic than it is funny. It just was not that funny, but it was. I like watching it from a nostalgic point of view. I actually loved it. No, I like the movie. I'm favorable with the movie. I'm just critiquing it and how it could have been much better and better executed. But no, it was nostalgic. I was in my feels watching. I mean, I watched it twice. It's no, it's a very watchable movie. I just wish Eddie would break down and go ahead and just do a full length barbershop movie. I mean, those
See,
were the stuff in the when it comes to, and you can tell what Kenyon Barris wrote, and you can tell what Eddie Murphy wrote. Like, I can just tell. Kenyon didn't have nothing to do with any of those barbershop scenes. That's all Eddie Murphy. And there's a different every time he walked into the barbershop, I lit up because it's the funny the exchange of ideas, the interacting, the verbal jousting. Let's just have a full barbershop movie. That would be hilarious.
and so my problem with the barbershop scenes is that they weren't flushed out because I wanted more of that. I did want more of that. I don't think
Well, they weren't fleshed out in the original movie though.
right. But I think that they had more time in those scenes. I think for me, Sean, what I think they did here is that they tried to cram so many things in with so many different people, and so that these neglecting things that you guys are talking about is because you had too many surprises, you had too many people trying to play roles in this film. For me, though, I'm glad. I'm surprised based on your criticism, but
Yeah.
I watched it. I watched it twice too, and I would watch it again. I enjoyed it. I had fun watching it. Maybe not as maybe a little bit more funnier than me than you. Katia, thoughts? Watch it? Not.
Eddie Murphy is always worth watching. That alone is worth the price of admission. You know what I mean? In my opinion, I think he is the most talented, underrated person out there. You know what I mean? And I know a lot of people say Jamie Foxx, but I'm like, there would be no Jamie Foxx if it wasn't for Eddie Murphy. He did that whole singing, all that stuff that Jamie is doing and did. He showed that, there's a pathway for that. And I would like us to stop putting Eddie in recycled things. He is talented enough to put him in new and fresh things. He deserves a writing team that knows how to write for him. We got it in Dolomite. We didn't get it here. So I think, he's still young enough to give us different looks. I know one of the things he wants to do is do a cowboy movie. You know what I mean? And I think that would be way more interesting. But watch it for Eddie, watch it, like Sean said, for the nostalgia, and just understand this is a whole different thing. You're not going to get what you got with the first one. Separate the two.
All right, Sean, you chomping at the bit to make one more comment. Go ahead.
I just want to say Wesley Snipes gave it the college try.
Okay, all right.
And you know what?
I like Wesley.
I got to give Eddie props for this. This business did Wesley really dirty.
Really wrong.
He didn't pay his taxes. He didn't kill nobody. He didn't assault nobody. And nobody wanted to really give him the type of roles and the money. Eddie Murphy stepped up and said, I'm going to make these two movies with my man Wesley.
Yep.
And that speaks volumes also to Eddie's character. Because a lot of these other clowns, like Sean says, oh, we in this together. We all about Black empowerment. And when it comes time to show and prove for us to take care of our people, then they're like, well, I tried. You know, I can't. I mean, I'll get you on the next one. Eddie made 2 movies, gave Wesley a real part, and made sure also that he got paid.
Yeah, nah,
Okay,
I'm with that. All right, hey, all right, it's a watch it from all of us for different reasons, but it's a watch it.
Yeah.
All right.